Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast series by Network of Education Policy Centers, edufocus. And today we're speaking about ecological justice with our colleague, friend, member, Burcu Meltem Arik of Sabancı University's Education Reform Initiative. She's a lecturer, an activist, a poet, and an avid birdwatcher. Welcome, Burcu.
Welcome. Thank you so much, Lana.
Today's topic, as we said, ecological justice. So, Burcu, maybe we start from the basics. What is ecological justice?
Well, for basics, I can really tell that ecological justice refers to ensuring fair treatment of all parts of nature, humans, animals, plants, etc., you name it, while recognizing the interconnected relationships. It actually combines environmental protection with social justice values and principles. It's never only about simple environmental protection. We can actually, mention that we are in the triple crisis. So climate change affects us, biodiversity loss affects us, and pollution definitely changes degrade our air, water quality, I would say. But these crises have impacts on pollution's communities differently. Some face flooding, some face proximity to polluting industries, but others can have direct clean air, clean water, green spaces, etc. This unequal distribution of challenges highlights the deep interconnection between environmental and social issues. When a factory pollutes, for example, when there's a factory pollution, it's often lower income communities that is impacted by this. When green spaces are, developed, it's actually disadvantaged neighborhoods lose their green areas. But it's not only mentioning about the problems, it's actually inviting and thinking and discussing transformative solutions, which is already there in nature by indigenous communities, by young people. So ecological justice means that seeing these connections and becoming part of the solution that to create more equitable and sustainable communities for all, not only for humans.
And how did you both get into the concept? Where did you learn from it?
Well, I learned from it from birds, I can say, really. I'm a bird watcher, and bird watching, visiting all around Turkey, not only seeing the ecological areas, but also the culture that is closely related to it. How the link between humans and nature opened my eyes. As Robin Wall Kilmer told that I saw the wisdom of nature, I would say. As a bird watcher, I noticed that how urban developments or some practices in rural or urban areas affected not just only bird populations, but also human or some communities as well. So, and through my work at Sabancı University Education Reform Initiative, I began to see how environmental inequalities actually directly impact educational outcomes. That's how I started via birds, I can say. And I also saw how teachers find solutions to these inequalities, environmental and social, and it gave me hope. That's how I started, I can say.
Very nice. So you strongly believe that educators should incorporate ecological justice into their teaching practice. Why is it? Why is it so important?
Well, I really, as you mentioned, incorporative ecological justice isn't just about including environmental topics to the curriculum. It's about understanding what we call learning with the earth rather than just learning about it. Because this lens, ecological lens, could help students, schools, communities understand the complex web of relationships that sustain life and develop their capacity to imagine and create a more equitable and just society. And this approach actually requires moving away from the traditional assumption of human superiority and acknowledging that humans are merely one component of nature, of our earth, I would say. It positions humans as a member of this life on earth, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And why is equitable access to green spaces the question of justice? What can schools do about it?
Well, I can give an example from Istanbul, actually. There are neighbors. There are two schools divided by a big road, let's say. And on one part, with the communities that have low socioeconomic income, they almost have no green space at all for children or for the community. But on the other side, there's a huge green space, actually, and this and they only have a road in between them. Communities with limited resources often have fewer parks, trees, natural areas, which impacts everything from air quality to mental health, Lana. But it's more actually than just physical access. It's about nature culture, where we dissolve the artificial barriers between human and nature's spaces. Green spaces are not just outside the cities or in some areas in the cities, but it's everywhere, and we need to understand that. In order to live well together, it's important for create spaces where different human communities can coexist with non-humans. It's also important that it's not having green spaces. Equitable access to green spaces is only about recreational. They are fundamental to learn with the arts, and they are fundamental to our mental health. And they are places where community come together and continue to be communities, continue to interact with each other and with other parts of the nature.
We heard you in some of our lectures and in things that you write about activities such as sensory walks or forest bathing. And we were just wondering, and you mentioned them as powerful tools to reconnect or to connect to nature. Is it something that you think schools can incorporate into their experience or in the experience of their learners?
Yes, and I believe that it's one of the easiest way that they can do. Not only using one sense, but all senses is critical, and I strongly believe that. When we integrate nature connection activities into daily school routines, we are practicing actually what I call 3 core elements of biomimicry: emulation, ethical values, understanding the ethical values, and reconnection with nature. These nature immersions experiences facilitate a really multisensory engagement with nature, deepening participants' understanding and appreciation, and helps understand the ecological systems that sustain life. It's not about just simply being nature. It's also, it could also be simply being nature and, have immerse all the colors and sounds and tastes, etc. But it's about understanding life's principles, how it sustained life for like 3.8 billion years. So morning classes can start with sensory awareness activities. Science lessons actually can help incorporate observation of school garden ecosystems to understand land ethics, that we are not alone. And these aren't just activities, they are ways of fostering what we call planetizenship or earth kinship, actually. And I strongly suggest that schools, wherever they are, there's always a way to include sensory activities. They don't need a park, they don't need a forest, because nature is everywhere.
We had the opportunity to try one of your sensory walks when we were in our learning event. I think a lot of us enjoyed it. Some of us, for the first time, actually did go into the nature into this way. And I can tell you from my personal experience that it was, for me, something new, but it also brought me some kind of a clarity about where we are as humans within this. So you already mentioned the multi-species justice, and it's part of the ecological justice that actually expands the understanding of justice beyond the humans. And how can you think, can schools integrate this concept? In which ways they can integrate them? Can they put them into the curriculum? How do we teach our children about multi-species justice?
Yeah, well, one of the terms that we discussed during during our wonderful gathering in Slovenia, we discussed that when we talk about Earth or nature, we tend to focus on ecocentric approach. So, excluding humans, excluding anthropocentric view, but integrating ecocentric. But what we discuss is that multi-species justice kind of concepts can help us not delete or not exclude any kind of view, but understand the relations between them. This is what I call centrismlessness. It's a difficult word, but with multi-species justice, we can really, we can really help students understand that human existence is linked with animals, plants, rivers, soils, etc. And studying local ecosystems, for example, can help us to show us how companion species have adapted to planet's limits. Not exclude anything, not humans, not animals, but understand how we relate with each other, and how we can live well together. What are the solutions? What are already there solutions? Is critical. So I strongly believe that multi-species justice blurs the distinction between humans and nature, and invites us to think otherwise, invites us to think differently. That's I can say.
Can we identify any practices or policies in our schools or in our educational systems that actually can be harmful or may be harmful to our communities and the environment? And how could these issues be addressed through the lens of eco-justice, actually?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is the food, for example. There are canteens and foods, and there's a kind of waste, and the food comes from distance, having carbon footprint quite a lot, etc. The first thing, the basic thing that we can do is either create a kind of community garden or, receive food from neighborhood or close areas, and consider waste or packaging. After COVID, for example, there was huge packaging issue and nobody thought of that. Yes, we wanted to solve these hygiene problems on one hand, but on the other hand, we created problems that we will face in the coming future. Or the school materials, there's a waste there as well. Or the energy systems are, it can be regenerative, sound energy, etc. But we have or the concrete, the building, how the building itself was instructed. So all of this could be taken care of within the school system. But there's an important element, there's an important discussion that we have it. For example, in Turkey, in order to solve energy problems, some schools have solar power plants. Putting solar power plants on top of the schools and, telling that this is energy, renewable energy, means nothing. What is important is that how we can build those panels, how we can actually take it to our communities. So the kids can learn the essence and how to build it, and then they can bring back to communities. Such systems and understanding is important when we consider the harmful impacts of schools and transform it.
So it's not only just about providing this to schools or schools having it, but actually involving learners, but I guess also educators and teachers and students in understanding why it's there and how it is helping. So it goes beyond doing. It's also about actually understanding and building it ourselves and having some kind of a, let's say, ownership over taking care of the environment.
Yes, definitely.
And what do you think, what kind of strategies can educators use to foster a sense of kinship and responsibility towards environment?
Well, we discussed again during our wonderful meeting a different strategy that I would like to introduce us. Not a different strategy to all of us, but that's something we didn't discuss at school systems yet. To foster environmental kinship, we need to move beyond traditional environmental education and embrace what I call, like Donna Haraway, Otkin, relationships that aren't based on traditional ties, but on actively created conditions supporting the sustenance of life. We need to help students learn to listen to multiple independent melodies in nature, various ecosystems, various species, natural processes that work together in harmony. This might involve short, middle, or long-term restoration projects. This is important. We are in the phase of restoration, actually, where students can witness their positive change through time, or partnerships with environmental justice organizations, or projects that connect students with other young people globally. The thing is that to help students understand the solutions to ecological and economic problems, we may support students that these solutions are not far away and they don't need always to be innovative. That's around us. This has a solution to one of the problems. To really understand, embrace, and learn, or the local populations that close to Zagreb, for example, to learn, to understand, to listen. This polyphony could help to find out strategies that are not far away, but that's really around us.
You already mentioned these centricisms that harm us in many ways, and of course we know that there are limitations to both anthropocentric but also to ecocentric thinking or views. How can educators really teach students about these limitations and when they address environmental issues or through addressing environmental issues?
One of the things that NEPS is working for so long is the critical thinking, actually. And moving, having critical thinking is important. What we also discussed, the diffraction methodology of Karen Barat puts. That moves beyond black and white solutions. That moves beyond black and white concepts. Simple binary oppositions. Move away from simple binary oppositions. So teachers, through critical thinking and through diffraction, actually, they can help students understand how different perspectives interact and create new patterns that we need today. So anthropocentric view reflects something. Ecocentric view reflects something. But what does it say together to us? And how can we move forward towards no-center, polyphony, pluralistic view, etc.? That's important. Having students understand that there are many ways of living on this earth. There are many ways of finding solutions. That there isn't one universal solution to anything, but there could be others. Many possible worlds that can coexist. If teachers, through their practices, discussions in the school, can help the students understand this, that will be really good, I guess. That's what we need in schools, in class.
Mm-hmm. So we've also talked a little bit already about this complex relationship or web of relationships, if we can call it like that, that and the dependencies that sustain life on our Earth. What is it that schools or educators can do to make learners appreciate this or understand this complexity?
A simple plant, a tree in their garden or close by, or a small garden in their community, or the park, near themselves. Studying food webs that they are part of itself through the lens of nature culture or biomimicry, how these webs teach us, or examining watershed systems that we are in. People now mostly consider the provincial boundaries, but we are living in watershed. So, examining watershed systems to understand interconnectedness, and the carrying capacity of that watershed. Using arts, poetry, haiku poetry, for example, as we did, could really help us to understand relationships creatively. Not only considering the teaching, like, this this happens when you do this, but having a through multisensory activities or through poetry, through literature, we can touch down the feelings as well, and we can discuss this kind of activities easy. What is around, using the environment that is around could help, actually. Very simple things like this how does it have oxygen, and how does it help us to produce soil, etc. Questioning this, observing, inviting community members could help teachers to find solutions, strategies, activities.
So we know that there are many initiatives in social justice, also in eco-justice, in environmental protection, and so on. What would you say are some successful initiatives in social or eco-justice in education that you know of or you could name?
Well, in Istanbul, in Mersin, in different cities where there is huge communities and where there is boundaries between like incomes, there's a segregation between societies. The most powerful example that I saw are the gardens, either in schools or in the neighborhood. The community gardens can help to understand the earth's rhythms. The community can come together. They can produce their own food. They can, talk about sustainable and healthy food production and eating. That's the most essence, I guess. And how to distribute seeds together, how to make a kind of that area a solidarity area. That's one of the most, good examples that I can see. But also young people's climate justice actions, and they are inviting all of us to do something today. I also see that in Turkey or in elsewhere, what young people are trying to do, not only for climate justice issues, but also for biodiversity and for intergenerational justice. That's also, I think, could be helpful. These are the first things that came to my mind, Lana, and the work that regarding the transportation, public transportation, regarding the commons, saving commons, working on the commons like parks, social areas, coals, etc. Those are really good examples, I can say. Or some solar panels that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. Not only putting there, but if you really explain how you can build solar power plants, not power plants, but panels, that could be also a good example.
Mm-hmm. So, for the end, you said in the beginning that brought you some hope. So would you say that in general, you're hopeful that education can also bring some transformation in the way the society works or believes or thinks about eco-justice? And are you hopeful that the new generations or the young can help us also in this transformation?
I'm very hopeful, and I would say that's why I'm still continuing this education policy work that we're doing at NEPS. And I believe that action brings hope. Seeing how people, how teachers, how students act gives me hope, because then I can see that there are people who are working and not letting it go. There are many difficulties, but they come together and they do this in solidarity. That gives me hope, and I strongly believe schools, educational environments, teachers, students, all the relationships that we have is highly important, and I have strong hopes thanks to teachers and students.
Thank you very much, Burcu, for this insightful talk, and we're very grateful to you for joining us today. We say goodbye now, and we invite you to join us on our next EduFocus episode, which we will, of course, announce in due time. Thank you, Burcu.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Bye, everybody.